Listen carefully, because what I'm about to tell you isn't something most men will ever admit to themselves. Most guys go through life chasing validation, giving attention to women who don't even care, and wondering why they constantly feel frustrated, insecure, or rejected. Here's the hard truth. You've been trained to believe that attention is a currency women respect. But in reality, the more you give, the more you lose. And yes, I said lose because giving your attention indiscriminately doesn't make you attractive. It makes you predictable, desperate, and frankly easy to ignore. Here's the controversial part. If a woman's ego seems inflated, or she treats you like you're optional, it's not her fault entirely. She's simply responding to how you behave. You feed it. Every text, every like, every compliment, when it's not earned, strengthens her sense of superiority and diminishes your value in her eyes. And most men, they don't even realize they're doing it. They think being nice, being attentive, or over-investing emotionally will win her over. Spoiler, it doesn't. What it actually does is inflate her ego while shrinking yours. Now, I know what some of you are thinking, but I don't want to play games. I just want her to like me. And that's exactly the problem. Wanting someone's approval is the quickest way to make yourself irrelevant. The moment you make a woman the center of your universe, you hand her control. She doesn't even have to try. Your attention alone makes her feel powerful. And here's the thing. Women, like everyone, naturally respond to scarcity. What's rare feels valuable. What's abundant feels worthless. So here's the method I'm teaching you today. It's simple in theory, yet most men fail to execute it correctly. The secret isn't manipulation. It's not about saying hurtful things or playing games. It's about withdrawing your attention strategically. It's about understanding a fundamental law of human behavior. People respect what they can't always have, and women are no exception. When you stop giving your energy to someone who doesn't reciprocate, something shifts. Suddenly, the dynamic changes. The power balance tilts. You regain respect in her eyes, not because you said something clever, but because you stopped saying everything. Let me paint you a picture. Imagine a woman who's used to texts coming every hour, calls answered instantly, compliments dropped freely. She's comfortable, almost bored, because there's no challenge, no scarcity, no reason to notice you beyond habit. Now imagine you suddenly stop. You don't disappear forever, but your energy is no longer instantly available. She notices. She feels the absence of something she's taken for granted. And in that absence, her perception of you starts to shift. She may feel confused, frustrated, or even intrigued. That's the beginning of reducing an inflated ego without saying a single word that could be construed as offensive. Here's why this works. It activates self-reflection. Most people, including women, are rarely conscious of their own behavior until it affects them. When your attention is withdrawn, she's forced to confront a reality she's not used to. The fact that you aren't there to validate her automatically. And here's the controversial truth many men refuse to admit. Women respect men who respect themselves first. If you allow your attention to be taken for granted, you're showing that you don't value yourself. And that's far less attractive than a little mystery, a little absence, and a strong sense of self. Now, before you think this is about cruelty or punishment, let me be crystal clear. This is about power dynamics in human interaction, not about being manipulative for the sake of ego. You're not trying to hurt her. You're simply reclaiming your energy, your time, and your attention. 3 things far too many men give away freely without understanding their true value. And as soon as you do that, something almost magical happens. Her inflated ego begins to adjust subtly, almost unconsciously. She begins to notice the man she's been ignoring. She begins to respect him, not because of what he says, but because of what he doesn't say. Because what you withhold becomes more powerful than what you offer freely. So, if you've ever felt like women ignore you, don't respect your time, or act like they're somehow above you, this is your wake-up call. It's uncomfortable. It's counterintuitive, and yes, it goes against everything modern dating culture tells you, but it works. And once you understand this, once you master the art of withdrawing attention strategically, you'll never look at interactions the same way again. You'll stop chasing validation, stop giving energy to those who don't deserve it, and start commanding respect simply by valuing yourself first. In this video, I'll break it down step by step. You'll learn how to withdraw attention without being harsh, how to create scarcity without being distant, and how to make a woman respect you, even if she initially wasn't interested. You'll discover why the men who always get noticed, always get respected, and always hold the upper hand aren't necessarily the ones who try the hardest. They're the ones who understand the true power of absence. So, get ready. If you've been giving too much and getting nothing in return, if you've been hoping someone would notice your value while you continue to sacrifice your time, this is your moment. The moment you stop feeding her ego and start feeding your own. And remember, the moment you understand this, the moment you execute it, the dynamic shifts forever. Stop overinvesting your attention. The very first mistake most men make, and the one that fuels a woman's ego more than anything else, is over-investing their attention. Every text, every like, every time you jump at her call or reply immediately, you're sending a signal. I'm available anytime, and my attention is yours to take. That signal, even if you don't realize it, tells her that your time is less valuable than hers. It makes her feel powerful without her even trying. Here's the truth. Attention is a form of currency, and just like money, it loses value when you give it away freely. The man who understands this doesn't chase validation. He doesn't compete for her approval. He understands that respect and interest must be earned, not begged for. When a woman gets used to attention that comes effortlessly, it becomes invisible to her. She doesn't notice it. She doesn't appreciate it. She doesn't respect it. So, what does this look like in real life? Imagine this scenario. You've been texting a woman for weeks. Every day, she's the one who gets your messages first. You reply instantly, even when you're busy. You constantly make plans around her schedule, hoping she'll notice how much effort you're putting in. But notice this. Her behavior doesn't change. She's not texting more. She's not making an effort to meet. In fact, she seems almost indifferent. That's because the dynamic is completely one-sided. She doesn't have to value you because you've made yourself too easy to value. Now, contrast that with a simple shift. Instead of replying instantly, you slow things down. You stop going out of your way every single time. You focus on your own priorities and let your attention become less predictable. Suddenly, something interesting happens. She starts noticing your absence. She wonders why you're not around as much. She feels a little confused, a little frustrated, and starts paying attention to the fact that she doesn't have automatic access to your time and energy anymore. That small adjustment alone begins to reduce the sense of entitlement and ego she has developed over your previous behavior. This isn't about playing games or being cruel. It's about self-respect and creating balance. When you overinvest, you're telling her that your value depends on her acknowledgement. When you step back, you're telling her that your life isn't revolving around her whims. And suddenly, that makes you more compelling. Women notice scarcity just like everyone does. And when your attention isn't freely available, your value rises naturally in her eyes. Let's look at another scenario. You're at a social event and she's there. Normally, you would drop everything to follow her around. trying to impress her with jokes, compliments, or attention. But this time, you stay grounded. You talk to others, enjoy yourself, and maintain your own space. You're present, but you're not waiting for her validation. Later, she finds herself observing you, curious, intrigued, wondering why your attention isn't so easy to claim. That curiosity is exactly what reduces ego. When she realizes she doesn't automatically have you, she begins to respect your boundaries and your time. The key is consistency. One day of withdrawing attention isn't enough. If you constantly give it away and then take it back occasionally, it sends mixed signals. She may just see it as moodiness or inconsistency. Instead, the man who earns respect and subtly shifts the power dynamic is intentional and consistent with his boundaries. He doesn't punish her, but he doesn't make himself endlessly available either. Another critical point is this. Your attention should go to things and people that add value to your life, not just to someone who expects it for free. The moment you start prioritizing your own goals, your own social circle, and your own passions, you naturally withdraw excessive attention from someone who doesn't reciprocate. This shift is powerful because it isn't about manipulation. It's about living on your own terms. And living on your own terms naturally forces people to reevaluate how they treat you. Think of it like this. Imagine a man who constantly pours water into a bucket with a hole at the bottom. No matter how much he pours, the bucket never fills. Overinvesting attention works the same way. But when he starts closing, the hole holding back just enough, suddenly the bucket fills. He's not asking for anything. He's simply letting the natural consequences of his actions take place. She starts noticing his value because it's no longer taken for granted. Finally, understand this. Reducing her ego through attention withdrawal isn't about humiliation or gamesmanship. It's about balance, respect, and self-value. It's about creating a dynamic where your time and attention are meaningful rather than automatically available. When you do this, not only does her ego adjust, but you also gain confidence, clarity, and control over the interaction. You're no longer desperate for approval. You're commanding it simply by valuing yourself first. Stop chasing approval. Here's a truth that most men refuse to admit. Chasing approval will never get you respect, interest, or influence in any interaction. Yet, so many guys fall into this trap, thinking that being liked, being validated, or being accepted is the ultimate goal. The problem is, when your self-worth is tied to someone else's opinion, you give up control of the dynamic entirely. You hand over your power without even realizing it. You can probably relate to this, thinking if I just say the right thing, if I just text at the right time, if I just compliment her enough, she'll like me. And then, when she doesn't respond the way you hoped, you feel frustrated, angry, or even rejected. That frustration isn't because of her. It's because you've built your value around her reaction. And that's the real problem. Men who constantly chase approval often try too hard. They laugh too loudly, agree too readily, or bend over backwards to impress. It feels natural at first because they genuinely want to be liked. But what ends up happening is predictable. They lose the very respect they hope to earn. Approval seeking is transparent. People sense it immediately, even if they don't consciously recognize it. It's like a low energy vibration. No matter how charming you try to be, it communicates desperation. And nothing kills attraction faster than that. Here's something you may have felt before. The more you try to win her attention or approval, the more distant she becomes. You overthink texts, obsess about whether she's interested, and measure your actions against her responses. Every moment of anxiety you feel is a reflection of how much control you've given her over your emotions. That's exhausting, demoralizing, and entirely unnecessary. The alternative is simple. Yet, most men fail to implement it. Stop chasing approval. Stop making someone else the measure of your value. Stop relying on their responses to determine how you feel about yourself. When you do this, you instantly shift the power dynamic. You no longer need validation to feel confident. You no longer overinvest energy in someone who may or may not appreciate it. You begin to operate from a place of self-respect, which is infinitely more compelling than trying to prove anything. Think about your own life for a second. How often do you notice that people respect those who are independent, who have their own passions, and who don't constantly seek affirmation? It's not because they're arrogant or uncaring. It's because they demonstrate that their time, energy, and attention aren't available at anyone's whim. That kind of confidence is magnetic. It's the kind of presence that naturally shifts the dynamic in your favor without any words. Chasing approval also clouds judgment. When you're focused on whether she likes you, you miss the signs that reveal her real intentions, her energy, or her respect for you. You interpret small gestures as validation and let negative signals slide because you're too invested in getting a yes from her. That leads to confusion, wasted time, and unnecessary frustration. When you stop chasing approval, clarity emerges. You begin to see interactions for what they really are. You start recognizing who values your energy and who doesn't, and you can make decisions from a place of strength rather than hope. Another thing you'll notice when you stop chasing approval is how freeing it feels. You no longer measure every action or reaction. You no longer worry about saying the wrong thing or missing the perfect moment. Instead, you act naturally with confidence and with a sense of purpose that comes from knowing your value isn't dependent on anyone else. That confidence doesn't just make you more attractive. It makes you more effective at setting boundaries and earning respect. Ultimately, the men who get noticed, who hold influence, and who maintain control aren't the ones who try the hardest to please. They're the ones who prioritize themselves first, who operate from self-respect, and who refuse to let someone else dictate their value. That's a lesson so many men learn the hard way after giving away too much of their time, energy, and emotional bandwidth. You don't have to make that same mistake. So, if you've ever felt ignored, undervalued, or overlooked, it's worth asking yourself one critical question. Are you chasing approval, or are you commanding respect by valuing yourself first? The difference is subtle but profound. When you stop seeking approval and start acting from self-respect, you no longer feed her ego and you naturally change the dynamic without drama, manipulation, or confrontation. You simply shift the energy and she has no choice but to notice. Stop overvaluing her attention. Here's where most men crash and burn. And honestly, it's time someone said it straight. Too many guys place far too much value on a woman's attention, as if her acknowledgement is the ultimate prize in life. This behavior isn't attractive. It's weak. It signals that your worth depends on someone else noticing you. And nothing kills respect faster than a man who constantly needs validation. Think about it. How many times have you rearranged your day, put your priorities aside, or adjusted your energy just to be noticed by someone who barely considers you? If that sounds familiar, it's proof of a mindset that needs to change. Men, it's time to wake up. Your life, your time, and your energy are not accessories to someone else's ego. Every second you spend overvaluing her attention is a second you lose for yourself, your goals, your passions, and your growth. Here's the critical insight. Attention is powerful, but it's only valuable when it's earned. When you hand it out freely, without expectation or reciprocity, you teach her that she can take it for granted. That's exactly how inflated egos form. You can't expect respect from someone who's never had to earn it. And if you keep overvaluing her attention, you'll never change that. Most men fail to see this because they've been conditioned to believe that giving more makes them more attractive. But here's the reality. The man who is scarce, who doesn't chase, and who maintains his own life and standards automatically becomes more interesting. He doesn't act out of desperation. He acts out of self-respect. And self-respect is the foundation of influence, attraction, and ultimately control in any dynamic. Let's be honest for a moment. Many men waste years overvaluing attention that doesn't matter. They scroll endlessly, wait anxiously for messages, and overanalyze every interaction, thinking that these small gestures are the key to success. But what they fail to recognize is that their energy is finite. Time spent overvaluing someone else's attention is time stolen from their own ambitions, friendships, and personal development. You can't build respect from a place of scarcity in yourself while giving it all away to someone else. And here's the part most men don't like to hear. You are the reason her ego inflates in the first place. If you constantly chase attention, if you bend over backward to be noticed, you teach her to expect it. You create an environment where she feels entitled to your energy, and then you wonder why she doesn't respect you. Wake up. This is not a commentary on her. It's a wake-up call to you. Stop being the easy target. Stop giving away what is valuable without earning it in return. Changing this mindset isn't about being cold or indifferent. It's about prioritizing yourself and your life above someone else's ego. Start focusing on your passions, your goals, and your purpose. When you naturally invest your energy where it matters most, you stop overvaluing attention that isn't deserved. You stop overthinking every text, every glance, and every interaction. And in that space, respect grows. Not because you demand it, but because you no longer make it automatic. Men, it's time to see the truth. If you overvalue her attention, you're effectively giving up control. You're teaching her that she holds power over your emotions and decisions. And the harsh reality, most women respond better to men who value themselves more than they value external validation. That doesn't mean being arrogant. It means setting boundaries, maintaining standards, and acting in alignment with your own life. The moment you stop overvaluing attention, everything shifts. You regain clarity, you regain confidence, and the dynamic begins to balance naturally. Suddenly, she notices the man she previously overlooked. Suddenly, the power isn't entirely in her hands anymore. This is not about manipulation. It's about awareness, discipline, and self-respect. So, here's the wake-up call. Stop giving away your energy freely. Stop rearranging your life for someone who doesn't reciprocate. Stop thinking that attention alone equals influence. The moment you prioritize yourself first and make your time and energy scarce, the world and the people in it begin to respect you naturally. Wake up, men. Respect is earned, influence is earned, and value is established by what you give and what you withhold wisely. Stop overvaluing attention. Start valuing yourself and watch how the dynamic shifts without drama, without conflict, and without ever lowering your standards. Let me be brutally honest with you, because this is the part most men never want to hear. If you've been giving away your attention freely, chasing validation, and bending over backwards just to be noticed, here's the truth. You've been training women to take you for granted. And the controversial part, it's not because they're mean, shallow, or manipulative. It's because you allowed it. You gave them the power over your energy. You handed them the control and then acted surprised when they used it. Wake up. This is the cold reality most men refuse to face, and it's the reason you're not getting the respect, interest, or influence you think you deserve. Here's what most guys won't admit. Overvaluing a woman's attention is the fastest way to make yourself irrelevant. You think being attentive, being nice, or being there all the time will make her notice you. It doesn't. It only inflates her ego while shrinking your value in her eyes. And let's be real, you're not competing with other men as much as you're competing with your own behavior. The moment you change the way you act, the moment you stop giving attention freely, everything changes. The power shifts back to you. And that's what most men are too afraid to do. I want you to pause and really think about this. How many times have you lost sleep, energy, or focus over someone who barely considered your time valuable? How often have you rearranged your day, waited anxiously for a reply, or overthought every interaction, believing that this effort would automatically create attraction or respect? If you're honest, the answer is probably too many times. And here's the truth you need to hear. The woman isn't the problem. The problem is how much control you allowed her to have over your life, your energy, and your self-worth. Now, here's the controversial statement that most men will resist, but it's necessary. You will never get respect from someone who doesn't have to earn it. And the way you stop being taken for granted is not by being nicer, more attentive, or more accommodating. It's by reclaiming your time, energy, and boundaries. It's by making your attention scarce, valuable, and intentional. It's by acting from self-respect, not desperation. I know this sounds harsh. I know it feels uncomfortable. But that discomfort is exactly why it works. When you withdraw attention, when you prioritize yourself first, you create a dynamic where respect and interest must be earned. You're not punishing anyone. You're simply acting in alignment with your own value. And the shift that occurs, it's subtle yet powerful. Suddenly, interactions change. Suddenly, you're no longer optional. Suddenly, she notices the man she's been taking for granted. And here's something most men ignore. This isn't about ego or arrogance. It's about clarity, confidence, and control. It's about understanding that your time and energy are finite and must be invested wisely. Stop giving them away freely. Stop bending over backward for validation. Stop chasing someone who doesn't reciprocate. When you do this, the respect you've been seeking will appear naturally because people, women included, instinctively value what is scarce and intentional. I want you to take a moment and reflect on your own experiences. Think about times when you gave too much and received little. Think about interactions where your attention was taken for granted. Now imagine what would happen if you stopped overinvesting in those situations. Imagine reclaiming your energy, your priorities, and your boundaries. The difference is not subtle, it's transformative. I want you to do something right now. Comment below about your experiences. Share the moments where you felt undervalued, overlooked, or frustrated. I will read every comment and I will respond. I want to connect with you because this is not just theory. It's a reality we all face. We can talk about it openly, and you can learn how to reclaim your power in real life. This isn't about being manipulative. It's about gaining awareness, setting boundaries, and respecting yourself first. So, here's the final takeaway. The statement that most men won't admit but need to hear. If you continue overvaluing attention that isn't earned, if you continue chasing approval and validation, you will remain invisible, irrelevant, and frustrated. The moment you stop doing that, the moment you prioritize yourself and withdraw unnecessary attention, everything changes. People notice, respect emerges, attraction appears, and your life begins to shift because you finally act in alignment with your own value. Wake up. Take control of your energy, your attention, and your life. Stop being the man who gives everything for free and expects respect in return. Instead, become the man whose presence is intentional, whose attention is valuable, and whose boundaries are respected. Comment below, share your story, and let's connect. I'll be reaching out because this conversation matters. And the moment you internalize this lesson, you'll see a difference in every interaction because you'll finally understand the real power of withdrawing attention strategically.